we have this idea when we feel an uncomfortable feeling inside of us, it's like, I'm here and I'm looking at this uncomfortable feeling and I want to get away from that. And we believe that like this is the thing that's kind of not me. I'm this, or like the observer, whatever you want to say. But if you look at this more closely, the sense of self, I'm not saying that the actual you, what you actually are, because I don't know what you actually are. I mean, what you actually are is like this. This is the only thing we know that we can control, like this thing here. This is like skin and bones and flesh and like this material here. This is what I can control. That's like the closest we could say to what we actually are. And I'm not really talking about some metaphysical like you. What I'm talking about is the sense of you. What you feel is you is in this distortion. So someone asked me like, well, yeah, because other teachers had told them that you shouldn't say, I am tired, because then there's the I that is tired and you don't want to have the self in there. And I'm kind of like, well, the misconception is that it's not that you are tired, it's that you are tiredness. Like you are the tiredness. When you are angry, it's not that you are angry, it's that you are anger, because the feeling of tiredness, that's where the sense of you reside. The feeling of anger, that's where you reside. That's where that sense of you is. So it's not that we're trying to get away from our emotions or trying to push down our feelings. And I always had an issue with this when I was a monk, that, for instance, you live in celibacy. And if you would ever say that, oh, I had feelings, I saw a girl and I felt attracted, like, no, you've failed. If you're really Buddhist, if you really practice meditation, really practice being a monk, you wouldn't feel any of that. So in other words, they don't touch it. It's like you're not allowed to talk about it. It's defiled, it's evil. The way you get evil, yeah, in a way. The way you get away from sexual attraction is by seeing that it's actually disgusting. It's yucky. It's like, oh yeah. There's this scene of a story about when the Buddha wakes up in the middle of the night and there's been a big party and everyone's like passed out and drunk and stuff, and he opens his eyes and he looks around and there's like all these beautiful women. They're lying with like saliva running down their mouths and like they're disgusting, it's yucky, and there's like they've had sex, so there's like liquids everywhere and it's just like kind of like that. And I meditated like 6 years as a monk, and I probably averaged 8 hours per day during those 6 years. And during all that time, once I had an experience when I was meditating and sitting and I felt that, oh my goodness, sex is disgusting. And I was really repulsed by it. I've had other times when it's a little bit like, okay, that's not so nice. But the one time I've really had that feeling, oh, sex is disgusting, one time out of tens of thousands of hours has that come up. And then we take that and say like, okay, that is truth. Sex is disgusting. Ew. And if you look at attraction, what is attraction? Like beautiful hair. Well, if you take out a hair and put it in your food, then there's no beauty. So there is no beauty. And that's kind of denying or trying to convince yourself that you're not feeling this. What I'm saying is that no, you allow yourself to feel your emotion. Don't be afraid of them. What's actually going on? When we feel anxious, we're like, oh, I don't want to feel this, and we try to solve the problems, because that's kind of how we get motivated. We feel a difficult sensations and we act because of it. I feel desire, so I grab something that I want, instead of, oh, it's just an uncomfortable feeling and it will come and it will go. So it's not that you are angry, it's that you are anger. It's not that you are anxious, you are anxiety. You are, the sense of you is literally in this distortion. And when you look at it and you let it come out and you don't repress those feelings, you don't like try to create this, is it dichotomy? No, separation? Hey, Jack. This split in what you see as you, between like, okay, I'm observing and this is not me, and you kind of try to reconcile this. So you kind of split yourself up instead of saying like, hey, wait a minute, I am here. And if you've ever looked at this, if you ever had something that was really difficult that you went through and you allowed, like, I think I spoke about fear last time, how if you say your fear out aloud, just saying that they had done research and it showed that just by like expressing your fear, you have less fear. Because you're not pushing it down, you let yourself feel like, oh, there's nothing there really. If you really look at that fear, it's just a sensation of distortion. I had it today. I was alone with the kids because my fiance was teaching her yoga class, and I was cleaning up. My son was it's just difficult to put to bed sometimes, and he didn't want his pajamas on. He really didn't want his pajamas on. He was screaming and running around and tried all the other pajamas, but the one he wanted was the one that has poop on it from this morning. So, yeah, we cannot take that one. We have to wash it. And then I was like, okay, I was cleaning and I was a little bit stressed and things going on. And then I lifted the table and I tipped over one of our favorite teapots that I got from my fiance for I can't remember if it was my birthday or if it was one of our anniversaries or something. I think it was one of our anniversaries. And I ruined the lid of it. And I could see that there was like the thought process getting going, like, oh my goodness, I ruined this beautiful memory. But there was no distortion. There was no reaction happening. I could kind of feel like almost like a ripple a little bit. But there was like nothing there. And I could kind of see my children were like, oh no. And my son started crying. And they're like, Mama's teapot, because it's the one she uses the most. It's Mama's teapot, and he was so sad. And my daughter would say, is Mama going to be angry at you now, Papa? And I was kind of like, actually, you know what, yeah. And I tried to get this, it was a bit like my thoughts were still running the program of, oh no, this is bad. This shouldn't have happened. Or I ruined something that was special and I'll never get that back. But the feeling towards that, the distortion was simply that it was still soft. There was no sense of I, and so what happened was simply me being too quick lifting something up and tipping it over, and there was a part of me wanting to make excuses. Well, the reason this happened was because my fiancée, she put the table on the mat, and it's her fault. It's not my fault. It's because she did that. So I could see my mind trying to blame it, and then when I heard that thought, without the feeling, the distortion towards it was, well, that's silly. Like, why? It doesn't matter if she put the table there. I'm the one who did it. I'm the one who lifted up the table and wasn't careful enough to watch because it was there and I got stuck and I did like that. It's not her fault. It's like, that's just dumb. So when you accept that you are in this feeling, that you are that feeling, and you look at that and you let it come up, you'll see that, and you don't push it down, because what I could have done otherwise would have been, I felt uncomfortable and it makes me want to do something. Either it's so uncomfortable I push it down, oh, it hurts so much, I'm not going to look at this. Other option is I just get angry and just lose control, or I put the blame on someone else. So this sense of me is making me put the blame on my fiancée. It's her fault. She actually caused this because she put the table where she did. Or it's my kid's fault because my son, he wouldn't put his pajamas on, and if he would just been a little bit calmer and didn't stress Papa, then I wouldn't have done this. Which I mean, there is truth to that. Yeah, if he would have been calmer, I wouldn't have been stressed. But it doesn't matter because it's my fault. I lifted up the table. I wasn't careful. I can't blame my son. He's 2.5 years old. He's doing what a 2.5-year-old should do. So it takes away the reactiveness of a self needing to defend itself. Because if I would have blamed my fiance, my child, or like karma or whatever you want me to blame, it would have been because I was trying to defend this me, this sense of self. Because it's an uncomfortable feeling to feel the sense of self, which is why I put so much emphasis on enjoying being here, on enjoying your life experience of just being here. It's not that it's the story is so beautiful and all these big things happen and they're so wonderful. No, it's just being here and feeling this calmness. There's nothing that needs to be special for you to feel that way. And the way you do that is by feeling good and enjoying yourself. Because then when you feel good and you enjoy yourself, and then all of a sudden it goes like, oh my goodness, I cracked this thing and now I feel so, like, why? Ooh, that hurts. Why am I doing this? And then very, very naturally, you'll start looking at this sense of self and say like, hey, well, this is kind of dumb. Why am I doing this? This is not making me enjoy my life more. Why? And it's not making me take rational actions. In fact, it's making me very impulsive. is not making me a nice person. I'm not a better father, which is something I want to be. I'm not a better husband. I'm not yet, but a fiance, is that? No, a male, female, never mind. Let's just call it, I'm not a better husband if I act on this impulse. But if instead I can take that away, then I can think clearly, I can see the situation, and it's all on me. It's my fault. I don't have to put that blame, because I don't need to defend myself or my actions in the sense that, oh, I don't want to be hurt. I don't want to feel that I did something wrong. So when my fiance came home, I said, okay, well, my Nene didn't want to put his pajamas on, and also, you know, the teapot, the lid, I broke it because I lifted up and it broke. And she's like, oh, well, that's a shame. I said, yeah, I'm sorry, I apologize, it was my fault. And then she said, well, maybe I can look for a new one. And she looked for a new one, and there was like a new one for, I don't know, 12 euros or something. We're not talking like 50 euros or something insane. It's not the end of the world. So when you really start thinking differently about this, when you stop believing that what happens out here is what decides how you're allowed to feel, and you focus on really enjoying yourself, you'll just get small things. And I highly recommend you also to not get caught up in the grandioseness of all these things. And I think that's a problem with spirituality in general, is that it's not enough to just enjoy being here. No, you have to save the world. I actually made a video about this morning. I'll release it tomorrow. There's this idea that it's not enough just to be a good person and just help people around you. No, you have to travel to India and open up an orphanage, or go out and live on walk on the oceans and pick up like stranded plastic, which is, I mean, those are really good things to do. I'm not saying don't do those things. I'm just saying that if you do that, why like put so much self into it? Instead of, you have a family, you have your life, well, just take your family to the beach one day and go and pick up some plastic bottles. Teach your children how to not dirty up the ocean so much. Teach your children how to be a more loving, caring person towards others, and understanding that other people have their own lives and their own things going on, so they don't need to react so harshly towards them. So really it brings everything back to you and what's happening now. It's not about these big things. It's not, oh, you know what, I need to be enlightened. I need to be a light worker, weaver, who goes out and changes the energies of the universe, not just the planet. I mean, I'm dealing with the universe here. Like, why? And if you can do that, then you're allowed to feel happy. Just feel good now. And when you start feeling good, then you start seeing all these small things you do. When you're doing the dishes, you'll notice there's a sense of uncomfortableness that makes you feel a bit stressed. And that stress is making you move faster. Why? Why do you need to stress? What about actually maybe leaving some of the dishes and enjoying yourself and taking it calmly and feeling good and happy? I mean, when you die and you lie on your deathbed, like, you're not going to say, oh, I wish I would have done those dishes a bit better. I wish I would have gotten my children to pick up their dirty clothes that they keep leaving on their floor. If I only had done that, then I'd be happy. Again, I'm not saying don't let your children do whatever they want to, or just leave all the dishes. What I'm saying is that don't hinge your happiness on those things. And really start with these small things. Don't think that you need to overcome the biggest cause of anxiety that you have, whether that's abuse from the past, whether it's fear of something that has happened to you, or fear of something that's happening now in the world around us. There's a lot of really scary things going on. Instead of working with those things, just look like right now, like all these small things that you have. When you wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is you pull this thing up and you go, oh, and you're sitting there, oh, I'll get a message, and feel the uncomfortableness that happens inside of you, the drive that makes you pick it up and want to look at it. Feel what it feels like when you get up and you go to wake up your children, and you feel that like, oh, uncomfortable feeling, I need to stress, it's so late. And again, I'm not saying just skip times and don't go to work. I'm saying look at that feeling and see, hey, can you do this? Can you do something differently? Is there something you can change? And maybe not you can't change it today, but the first step is just becoming aware of how much we're punishing ourselves, how much we're hurting ourselves. It's not other people doing this. I think this whole thing about negative energies, I see all the time on YouTube, like, oh, how to protect yourself from psychic attacks. And I'm kind of like, what? I'm not saying there isn't such a thing. I'm just saying, just focus on like your life. Instead, it's like, oh, it's evil spirits from the past coming to attack me, and like it's all these things. Just like focus on like getting out of bed and not picking up your phone. And if there is someone attacking you, then well, just leave that, because that's probably too difficult to deal with. And just focus on these small things, and you will start to see that you're the cause of all this unhappiness, of all this discomfort. And the good thing about that is that you are also the solution to it. Not always easy and not simple, but yeah. Jack is saying it's amusing to watch it sometimes on the YouTube. Yeah, it is. And when you start seeing life differently like this, it really makes you look at other people's actions differently. When you see how people try so hard to be perceived a certain way, or, I mean, it's even the funniest is when we actually do watch like spiritual videos, and there's people who are so into it, and they're so strong, they're so powerful, and they're like, it's about manifesting your dream life, and you can create this life story that's your destiny. I'm kind of like, oh my goodness, the amount of self is that, and that is like, it's insane. If I would have been sitting here saying like, you need to go out and you need to really get all the money you can get so you can buy the biggest house you can get, and when you have the biggest house you can find, then you buy 2, and you start looking for a private airplane. Now that's when the fun really starts. And when you have a private jet, then you look for a boat, a real big yacht. And after that, in other words, that just sounds ridiculous, but for me it's the same thing when someone comes and say, oh, just manifest the dream life. It's the same thing. It's the idea that I need to get this big thing happening, and when that happens, then I'll be happy. I need to find my destiny. If I find that, then I can be happy. And it's not that there's not something that will work better for you in regards to what you do with your life and your work. Absolutely. And by all means, look for that. But don't wait with enjoying your life until that happens. Like, start now. And start looking at these small things. Don't start with the big things. Just start with the small things. And feel that uncomfortableness. And see how that is hurting you.